morning once again. Thank you for joining today's session. Today's session is about Wisenet Nvr configuration. So in this training, we will see how to connect up your Nvr, how to start the configuration, how to add the camera, how to go about managing the Nvr rest of the configuration, resolution, recording settings, rate configuration, so on. All right. So how the training works is each of you after the training, you will get an access to a remote lab. You will get an email from WebEx. You will get an email from WebEx saying connect to a remote lab using this link. Once you click on that link, it will take you to the remote PC. Each PC will have a number, PC number, right? And I will be sending you a separate email with a workbook, online workbook, where you will enter your details, your first name, last name, and so on, and you will practice these questions when side by side. Basically, you will have the lab on the left side, and you will practice these questions on the lab. For example, it will ask here, what is your PC number? You enter your PC number, and each PC, you have a specific NVR IP address. You can log into that NVR, add your cameras, these two cameras, and then practice these questions, all the questions that you see here. All right. So you have to do the workbook side by side when you get access to the remote lab. Each PC will have a number. Each of you will get a remote PC. You can do this anytime in the next week. You can take some time till next Tuesday, till next Monday. You can practice. I will be sending you the link by today or early morning tomorrow. All right. So let's begin. All right. So the first thing as a project engineer that you should know is uh, there is a number of type of NVRs, not just one model. We have a few type of NVR, and the type of NVR is dependent on the number of channels. We have 4 channel, 8 channel, 16 channel, 32 channel, and 64 channel NVR. All right. In this training, we are focusing entirely on how to configure the NVR. Then within the 4 channel, 8 channel, we have um, some variations, and we differentiate it by series. If you go to hanva-security.com under video recorders, we have here 64, 32, 16, 8, and 4. But you will find Q4 channel, X4 channel. So there is another variation as well by series. From the series also, you can expect some differences in the features. All right. So how to find about that difference in the series? You can go to data center catalog, lineup brochure. You can open the main one first. Okay. Once you log in to the website, once you go to data center catalog, when you're on the page, we'll wait for it to load. This catalog has got all the products about SSL, all the products about our Wisenet, camera, NVR, VMS, access control, accessories, everything. So it starts with about our company, who we are, and so on. If you want to know more about this, you can attend pre-sales part 1 training. We talk about Hanwha as a company, we talk about the cameras, how to select cameras. But today it's how to configure an NVR. It's a different topic. All right, so here you will find under recorder, the first letter dictates what series. Okay, the series is basically categorizing groups of NVRs under one series. For example, you can have in X series, we can have 4 channel, 32 channel, 16 channels, 64 channel, and so on. In Q series also, we can have 4 channel, 32 channel. So some features will be slightly different, like failover, redundancy in power supply, RAID function, they might be the key differences between the series. All right, the starting one is L, then Q, X, and P. P will be rarely used because P is all about artificial intelligence NVR. You can convert a standard X series or Q series camera to an AI camera, artificial intelligence camera. So in case you need that, you can use it. Otherwise, most of you will be using X series. Okay, and I'll tell you the reason why. Then comes Q and L. Okay, the letter R represents recorder. Then today's topic, we are working only on NVR. There are different types of recorder, DVR, pentabit, mobile recorders, um, software and PC based recorders servers. But today we are focusing only on NVR. All right. Then this represents the number of channel, version number usually 10. Then D is dual power supply if you want failover in power supply. Then number of hard disks. B4 means 16 hard disk. All right. Now scroll down. Starting you will see all about cameras. We'll keep scrolling down. All right. Here we go. We have NVR. Wisenet NVR. Okay. Now there are some type of NVRs which are PoE based. If you notice behind the NVR there is a PoE port. You can directly connect the camera to the back of the NVR. You don't need a separate switch. Okay, so there are models with this called PoE NVR. All right, then this is what I was referring to. P series AI NVR. What it does, it converts a camera and picks up metadata from this object from the scene. Um, Shirt color, car type, person type, male, female, and all that. So it will gather this data from the scene. All right, we have AI cameras. If you use it, you don't need AI NVR. But if you have a standard camera and you want to convert it as an AI camera, artificial intelligence, you can use our AI NVR. All right. So P series 64 channel Linux operating system, 400 Mbps recording throughput, up to 64 channel. It supports 16 hard disk slot, maximum 160 terabytes or 10 terabyte each. You can expand the storage via iSCSI. RAID 5, RAID 6 is available. It is hot swappable hard disk, which means when the power is on, you can remove the hard disk and replace with a new one. It supports our VMS. So NVR, if you have more than one NVR, you can connect all the NVR to our SSM VMS without any license. All right, to centrally monitor. You can have one monitor with the cameras from NVR 1, 2, 3, everything together, central monitoring. So feel free to explore this option using SSM along with NVR. Next. Next is a dual monitor. NVR support at the back of the NVR, there is HDMI port 1 and 2. Some NVRs don't have two HDMI, they have VGA. So just keep note based on your requirement. Then power consumption, how much power is required, and failover is support. All right. PoE budget. There is no PoE budget, which means it is not a PoE NVR. There are some NVRs which is PoE. So you will find your PoE budget. So you will also see the letter S. S means PoE NVR. You can find your PoE is supported. You can directly plug your camera behind the NVR. All right. Then X series. X series also you will find 64 channel, 32 megapixel, up to 32 megapixel per camera. All right. It's not total per camera. 16 terabyte, 16 hard disk into 160 into 10 terabyte. So 160 terabyte. RAID 5, RAID 6. It supports dual monitor again. No, everything else is fine. Done. It also supports AI search. We will see all this as we move in the training. Now, there is a difference between a P series and an X series NVR. If you notice, here it says new, fine, new model. But if you go to P series, you'll find here AI, right? Just be very aware about it. It can convert a non-AI camera to AI, whereas X series also you will find AI feature, which means if you use AI camera, you can use with X series. All right, this is what it means. In P series, you can use AI camera or non-AI camera and still get AI feature. Whereas in X series, you have to use an AI camera to get AI feature. What about the old models? We still have these ones, XRN. These are 8 channel. Um, Q series. Q series also has 8 channel with PoE. The difference is Q series will have lower budget, PoE budget. Behind the NVR, you can connect the camera, but you cannot have a very high powered cameras, right? Then you have L series. They have only one HDMI port and you cannot connect more than a 5 megapixel camera. Each camera, 8 channel, 8 into 5 megapixel. That's it. You cannot connect a 4K camera to L series. In Q series, you can connect a 4K camera, 8 megapixel. Whereas in X series, you can connect even a 32 megapixel camera. So you see the small differences. It's all about the processor, how much more it can handle. Even X series has dual monitors. It has failover, no issue. But does it have RAID? Actually, X series has RAID depending on the model. This guy B4, it has RAID 5, RAID 6. Okay, this one also has RAID 5, whereas this model does not have RAID. So depending on the model, you have to figure out whether it has RAID or not. All right. Then even in P series, uh, almost everyone has RAID 5 option, RAID 6 option. All right. So what did we learn so far? Today we talked about NVR. There are two ways to differentiate the NVR depending on the number of channel. One, if you have 64 channel NVR, you have higher storage capacity. You also have higher features, RAID 5, RAID 6, power supply failover and all that. If you have a smaller channel NVR, maybe you can take a 4 channel or 16 channel NVR, the hard disk will be less, 4 hard disk only you can connect. So things like that. That is one. Next difference is the series itself. Higher the series, P series is the highest. You can have AI features on the camera. You can create AI data, metadata from the scene. Then if you have X series, you should use an AI camera to get AI features. Failover is available. RAID 5 option is available. In Q series NVR, no such option such as failover, no, not available. RAID 5, RAID 6 not available. They are only up to 16 channel. Q series maximum you will see 16 channel. Even L series you will see maximum 16 channel. All right. Now there is one more link in our website which is very important on storage calculation. You can go to put your mouse anywhere. You can go to Wisenet toolbox. Okay, go to our website, put your mouse anywhere. You can find Wisenet toolbox. Click on that. Once you go here, clear all, start new. If any filter is there, clear everything. Go to NVR. All right, 4 channel. You can find 4 channel X series, Q series, but no P or P series you cannot find. L is also there. 8 channel X series, Q series, L series, fine. 16 channel X series, Q series, L series, fine. 32 you will not find Q, you will only find X and P. P series, X series. Then 36, do not work on this for now because 36 is PRP. It's a Windows-based recording server. So this is not what we are covering today. This is a different topic. It's called SSM VMS server. This you have to attend a different topic training, SSM configuration. N is NVR, 30, 64 channel, P series, X series. All right. Another way to quickly identify the difference between the series is you can take, for example, this and this. How do I compare? Click on the comparison button, click compare, and scroll down. In orange, you will find the differences. 16 hard disk it supports, the second one. The first one supports only 8 hard disk. So if you have a project where you don't need a lot of storage, you can just go with this first one, right? Why to go with a bigger chassis, bigger processor, and more power and more cost? Not required. Scroll down, RAID 5, RAID 6. Both of them are having, it seems, so it's fine. What about a hard disk slot? Okay, this is the difference, 8 and 16. So the difference is 8 and 16 hard disk. Okay, what about, let's compare something else. Let's say RB2 DB4. What's the difference? Same thing, hard disk. Then you will find dual power. One of them is having dual power supply. So this is one way to figure out. So understand your NVR. If it have dual power supply, you need two power supply cables. You need two power supply arrangement in the project. Got it? Then if it requires more hard disk, understand how many hard disks are you buying. If you need RAID 5, make sure you have enough hard disks for RAID. All right. We will see point by point. All right. Next is what is the rack unit required? How much rack is consumed by each NVR? In order to get that particular data, you have to enter the specific model number of the NVR. For example, I have to enter here PRN4011 on the web page. Scroll down, open datasheet, click on this. Once you open the datasheet, you will get some additional detail related to the project. Okay, scroll all the way down. What is the weight of the unit? Fine, not really a big challenge. Then power consumption, it requires 250 watts. So make sure you have enough power, or you can say current available to supply this power. Then operating temperature is mentioned. What is the rack unit? 3 rack unit. Can you see that? 3 rack unit, right? Dual power supply. So you need two cables. Behind the NVR, VGA and HDMI. So if you have two HDMI, you need one converter or adapter, VGA to HDMI. Okay. Some of you will not connect behind the NVR. You will use PC to see the video. But if you're directly connecting behind the NVR, then yes, you have to keep note. Then Ethernet. There are 4 Ethernet ports. Why there is 4? You need to understand that, right? So we will see that as well. Next, manual. Manual is about configuration. That's okay. Then go to quick guide. You will find out what all equipment or what all is supplied along with the NVR. Sometimes you want to know if there is a rack unit available, or there's a rack kit available, or is it mountable on the rack? Is the power cables included? So in order to get that data, either you will find it on datasheet or you will find it under quick guide. You can get that information. So we'll wait for it to download. While it is downloading, this is also the page where you will download the firmware to update the NVR. Every time you start the configuration, you must update the NVR for the first time. Okay, so this is the update package. We have tools, you can directly upload to the NVR, or using the tool, you can upload to the NVR. And we have CAD drawings. If you want to do a schematic, you can use the CAD drawing. All right, page number 2. What is the package content? It includes NVR, power cable, mouse, racks, mounting screw, and rack ears. Right, so this is included. HDD door lock and some HDD fixing screws and terminal blocks. So these are the supplied units. So when you get the NVR, don't just expect the NVR. Don't throw away other things or the screws. You might think, okay, I don't need it. But when you get the hard disk from the supplier, you will be looking for the screw. Where is the screw to mount the hard disk? You'll be looking for the rack. So keep everything safe. Okay, next about HDD. The NVRs are not included. If you see here, hard disk is not included. You have to buy the hard disk. You can go to data center and HDD compatibility and view the document and check whether the hard disk model that you have, it is listed here. For example, I am looking for PRN 4011, PRN 4011. I can check here whether the model number from Seagate is listed and ticked. Yes, it is ticked. So no issue. You can keep clicking next. We have two models, Seagate and Western Digital. A lot of options are here. 4 TB, 6 TB, 8 TB. Can keep clicking next. You will find more options. Again, next, more options. Western Digital and so on. So it will be there, but just make sure it is there. Otherwise, be careful not to select that hard disk. Okay. Sometimes you may not find your model. I'm looking for a 32 channel X series. I cannot find any hard disk. In that case, you will be ending up in this page, model group list. It means if you want a 32 channel NVR hard disk, you can use the same model which is used for 64 channel. It falls under the group 64 channel. All these NVRs are the same, hardware. So any hard disk suitable for the group leader. This is the group leader. It is also compatible with the subgroup. All right. So if you're looking for a 32 channel RB2, just look for 64 channel. All the same hard disk you can use for 32 channel also. All right. Just make sure it is there. If you want better price, look for other models and send to supplier, get a better price. You can find out or take it from the distributor. All right. So this is how you get ready and make sure all the things are in order. Next. So we talked about what is the rack space. Okay. Now we will also see what about the number of cables required. Behind the NVR, there is always at least two ports. And if you're using a VMS, SSM, our VMS to do the monitoring, uh, for example, I have here SSM. This is my SSM VMS. I have added the NVR here. I have added two NVRs, by the way. So both the NVRs I can monitor from a single interface. I can see NVR1, NVR2, all the cameras are listed. 6410, 4011, both the NVRs are here. I can see them together. I can see some cameras from here. I can see some cameras from here. So you see four channel, right? Four channels. I can see four cameras, one, two, three, four cameras. I can see from different NVR together. If you are going to use a VMS at the end for monitoring, behind the NVR, you must connect at least two network ports. You have to use at least out of four, you have to use at least two network ports. If you have failover, again, if you need failover of NVRs, N plus one failover, again you need two network ports as a minimum. All right. So make sure you dedicate two network ports for your typical project-based NVR. If you have just four camera, 32 camera, one monitor, okay, don't take tension. But if you have more than 120 cameras, you have multiple NVRs, you have a central VMS, SSM VMS. It is free to use, by the way, with NVR. If you have that kind of projects, make sure you have two cables coming out of the NVR to the switch and connected to that for the BMS purpose to do the load balancing. Okay. Now, um, is my audio very clear, or you have any concern with the audio? Please let me know. Okay. Okay. So the next thing that we have to focus on is regarding the cables. We will see more details when we are going through the NVR configuration about the cable, some words and all that. So we will see. And configuration, okay. All right. So if you have an NVR, PRN4011, it belongs to P series. How many cameras can it support for recording? If you open the datasheet, it will be there, or if you open the toolbox, also you will find here 64 channel. You can just add and 64, this one, right? Okay. You can add and compare just one model. You don't need to have two models to compare. You can compare even one model. You can get an idea how many camera it supports, how many hard disks, 12, how many size, what is the maximum size, 8 terabyte, so you cannot use 10 terabyte. So that also will be listed. All right. So that's one. Next is does it support RAID? It is also mentioned. Does it have two power supply? How many network ports are available? Okay, we will be seeing camera port and viewer port when we are doing the configuration. How many HDMI ports are available? How many hard disk is available? Is the hard disk suitable? This is something you have to check from the compatibility list. Okay. Now in the storage calculation, let's say for some reason the project they want to have one more camera. You already have the calculation from the pre-sales, but they just want to add one more camera, right? So what is important is resolution. Maybe you're not sure which model, don't worry about it. Just understand what resolution you are going to use. Right now, if you notice, I moved to network camera. I'm going to select any camera for calculation purpose. Okay, but just make sure it is dome, bullet, box. It's okay. Don't use PTZ. PTZ will take more storage. So use dome and choose the resolution. Let's say you are doing recording 5 megapixel. Select any 5 megapixel and take any camera from here. First one I will take and calculate. So previously you had 30 cameras, now you have 31 camera and you're going to record for 31 days and you can click on settings. You can select here what resolution you're recording. You have 5 megapixel, but are you recording 5 mega or as per regulation you need only 1 mega, or the customer says I need only 2 megapixel recording. So that also you have to keep in mind. You can buy a camera 5 megapixel, but our NVR it supports two profile, one for live view 5 mega, another profile for recording 2 mega, 1 mega, half mega, or even 5 itself, another 5 megapixel. So the NVR is flexible. So feel free because many countries like Qatar, they only 1.2 megapixel is required. Dubai only 2 megapixel is required for recording. Saudi, some place 5 mega, some 2 mega. So it is in that fashion. So depending on your country, you can choose, right? So sometimes you might have a 4 megapixel camera, and in Kuwait, you need to record 3 megapixel. So you can downsize the resolution to save some storage. Right, so here I am going to record 5 mega itself. Always use H.265 profile. The camera is capable of H.265, all our cameras, except the basic models, L series camera, not Nvr camera. For example, where is our brochure? If you notice, we have cameras also in the same model. X series camera, Q series camera, L series camera, so on. You can connect any camera to any series of NVR, no issue. You can connect P series to X series NVR, no issue. P series camera to X series NVR or Q series, doesn't matter. Only thing you have to keep in mind is when you go to the NVR, what is the maximum resolution it is supporting? Q series maximum 8 megapixel, X series maximum 32 megapixel. If you have a 40 megapixel camera from some P series, then it may not work. So like that only you have to check. Camera wise, no issue. Then within the camera we have the L entry level. This guy does not have H.265. Anyway, if you use L series in the toolbox, for example, in case you have L series, you can also do that. For example, here L, if you use L, calculate L series, it has only H.264. So don't make that assumption that L also has H.265. Everything else has except L series camera. L NVR is okay, I think, but L camera does not have H.265. All right. So what I would suggest probably is just identify what all cameras you have, which series. Then from that you can take any 2 mega, 5 mega. Okay. Then go to settings, resolution, H.265, bandwidth. You don't have to adjust unless you have tried and tested other bandwidth. Frame rate, you can make 15 frames for recording. Done. Currently, it is recording on 80% continuous, 20% motion. So if your customer says, no, I need all continuous, go to setup, make it continuous. If he says, I need all motion, make it 0 and all motion. So it will be full-time motion, right? This you don't have to change. These two you don't have to change. You can leave it as it is. That's it. Your storage is ready. You need so and so terabyte. And when you go to NVR, you can add any one NVR. For example, you have a 32 channel. You have this model, you can add that. Okay, let me go to something with RAID. Add it, calculate. Everything looks okay. You have one NVR. You have inserted a 4 terabyte hard disk. You need 2 times 4 terabyte hard disk to get 8 terabyte storage. All right, now let's try to make it a bit more challenging. For example, let's say if you want to reduce the number of hard disks, you can increase the size. So you need only one 8 terabyte. If you need RAID 5, all right, if you need RAID 5 and you choose maybe 4 terabyte or 2 terabyte, you will see that you need at least 5 hard disks. Okay, you need at least 5 hard disks. Even if I put 10 terabyte, I need 5 hard disks. See, I need only 8 terabyte, but just because I put RAID function, I need 5 hard disk. So this is again, sometimes some customers make this mistake. They they know they need only 8 terabytes, so they will buy only one 8 terabyte hard disk. Why to take the effort of doing the calculation and stuff? But somewhere in the specification it says RAID, or somewhere in the regulation it says RAID 5 required. All right. In order to do RAID 5, it is redundant array of independent disk. That is called RAID. It's an array. You cannot do with one hard disk RAID. You cannot do with two hard disk RAID 5. So there is a minimum hard disk requirement for each model of NVR. So whenever you have RAID, use the calculator, make sure you have that much quantity of hard disk. Here, if I don't need RAID, I need only one, more than enough. But the moment I need RAID, okay, it did not refresh, so just do it once again, it will refresh. You need 5 quantity. For one NVR, you need 5 quantity. It's 50, roughly 5 into 10, 50 terabyte, out of which usable is 40. Rest will go for 8. So you can reduce this. Even if you use 4, you need 5 hard disk. All right. So when you use RAID, make sure, especially at that time, you have enough hard disks available in your site. Okay. If you use RAID 6, you will see hard disk will increase further. Okay. Maybe I'm recording just for one day. Doesn't matter. For if you want RAID 6, you need 6 hard disk. That's the law in using this NVR. Otherwise, no RAID, fine, no issue. You can use one hard disk. All right, hope you got it. If the customer says I need 10% spare, you can add it on the day. Let's say it's 30 days into 10% is 33 days. So you can add it that way. You can increase the hard disk and be fine. All right, so this is a critical point. Tomorrow, if you want to make some changes, just save it. It will get saved here, and you can start new some other project, and you can open it again. Whatever you did before, you can go to open and my project. Whatever I have done so far, it is already loaded. So it's saved. You can edit the name, ABC. You can edit the name. You can also take a report with your company logo. You can change the data here, project name. You can add which model of hard disk. You can keep a report for yourself, right? Or to prove to the customer, this is the calculation for the project. You can take a quick export PDF or you can print it. Okay, so far clear, I believe. Now let's do the NVR initialization. After that, we can take a break. First, let's go ahead and finish the initialization process. So what all did we learn today? Up till this point, we have different types of NVR. So far, okay, that's good. Depending on the number of channel capacity. Then we also have differentiation in NVR based on series. Some NVR have X series, some NVR are Q series. So some features are different. You will find failover RAID option in X. You will not find it in Q. You have L. L will have lesser HDMI output. It will support lesser resolution camera, something like that. So that is one difference. Number of channels, we saw that. You cannot find 32 channel in Q series. So that's one. Then how to find the rack unit, how to find the power consumption, how to find the hard disk, we saw that. Also, go to the website, search for the model of the NVR and open the datasheet and get access to it. Then when you go to the NVR page, you can also find what is the package content. Does it have rack kit? Does it have the power cable supplied and so on? So how do you find that? Go to quick guide. When you go to quick guide, what all is shipped, you will get an idea. So in case if something is missing, you know, the hard disk screws are also supplied in the package. Okay, done. Then we talked about how to do the storage calculation. That also we did. Then how many cables are required? If ever you're using SSM VMS for monitoring the NVR, we said you need 2 cables from behind the NVR to do the SSM monitoring, to monitor from different NVRs using free version of SSM VMS. You need to have 2 cables coming out of your NVR. Okay, and we are going to see where to connect that 2 cable. We will see. And before that, now let's go ahead and do initialization and take the first break. Okay, initialization. There are 2 ways to initialize the NVR, and it depends on the model of the NVR. We are currently in a transition period. In the sense, if you notice in the catalog, lineup catalog, and you go to the Nvr section. Let me zoom in for you so it's clear. Where is the Nvr? Okay. When you go to the Nvr section, this is all okay. Then you might find some new models, NEW, new models. These guys, they have a different processor, a new processor. The way you configure that slightly changes. It's for the better, actually make it more easier. The ones without it, there is the old platform. The old ones is what we will see now, and the new one also we will see as a comparison. If ever you have an older generation, we do not know what you will order. So if you have the older generation, make sure this guy is an older generation model, PRF 4011. Make sure you connect a physical monitor behind the NVR. Take a HDMI cable, plug it behind the NVR, connect it. You have to do a initial setup. We call it initialization. You cannot do it remotely. You have to physically connect HDMI monitor, not VGA, HDMI. All right. When you plug in, it will ask you what is the language of the NVR. Okay. Select English. Then it will ask you what is the password for the NVR. What password do you want to set? NVR by default does not have any password, so you have to create a password. You can create a combination capital letter, small letter with at least 8 characters. All right, done. Now after that, okay, for example, here I put some Wisenet at the rate 12 like that. Done. So my password is set for the NVR. Next, it will ask you, is the password of the camera factory reset state? Now, this is the step where it may be confusing. Uh, Usually what we do is we configure the camera before adding to the NVR. If you attend camera configuration training, we teach you the 7-step process on how to configure and prepare the camera, each camera with its own IP address and so on. Once you are prepared, you can say, yes, my camera is already configured. It is not in the factory reset. It is already configured by clicking no. And whatever password you gave for the camera, you can enter. For example, let's say when I click no, okay, it says please enter the current password to register the camera. Again, another critical step here is you will enter the password for the camera. Fine. What will happen after you enter? It will add the camera here itself. The NVR will start registering the camera here. But you cannot control which camera will get added. If you have 100 cameras, any 64 cameras will get added. So to avoid that confusion, what you should actually do for large projects or medium sized projects, just put any dummy password. Just click no and put any dummy password and skip the step. However, where is this feature useful? Imagine you are going for a showroom setup with only 8 cameras. You don't have time to do the pre-configuration of 8 camera, maybe it's 4 camera, it doesn't matter. In that case, what you can do is plug all the cameras to the network. You don't have to set any IP address, nothing. It's all factory reset. You just say, yes, I have connected 4 cameras. They have never been configured. And you can enter a new password. Then automatically the NVR will set a password for the cameras itself. The NVR itself will do this work for you. Okay, it will set a password. Then you can, I think you can change the IP, but you need to check that. But basically, this step is good if you have very few cameras, you know what you're going to add. You have only 4 camera, it will only add 4 camera. In that case, it's okay. But for a project wise, if you want to have full control of which IP is getting added to which NVR, just click no and enter any dummy password. Okay, so now once I click no and enter some dummy password, what happens? It will try to add, but there will be no camera, so it will not add anything. And later on, I can choose an add. Okay, so I will just try to put some dummy password and skip. Next. After this, your NVR is capable of giving IP address, DHCP. An IP is automatically assigned to the camera when the DHCP server is on. Do you want it to run? Again, if you connect a new camera, brand new camera, NVR will give an IP. Automatically, it will give 1.51.51, 1.52 to the camera. It will give automatically. Okay. So if you don't want the NVR to give, you can stop. Okay. If you want the NVR to give random IP addresses, you can keep it running. By default, it is running. If you want, you can stop it. So you can fix the IP address by yourself. NVR will not decide the IP address. All right. So again, for small projects, 4 camera, 20, just 16 camera, you can turn it on. Whatever cameras are there, automatically all of them will get an IP. You can tell the NVR. Uh, you only give the password. You will enter the password here. It will create a password and add the camera, and that's it. Make it easier for the uh, adding process. All right. Next. DHCP server, we've done that. If for small project, it's fine, but large projects, if NVR is giving an IP address, then you have to figure out what IP address it gave. Try to locate that camera. Not required. Just keep it as stop. All cameras have default IP 1.100, so that is fine. All NVR have a default IP 1.200, right? So this 1.200 you have to change to your IP requirement. All right. This is all the job of initialization. Okay. Now we will say stop. And now I'm going to set up the IP address for the NVR. All right, now if you notice, only the first button is open. The other ones are frozen. The reason is the other buttons, there is no cable connected. If you connect a cable, only then you can set the IP address. Otherwise, you cannot. All right. So if I'm going to use a VMS, I told you you have to connect 2 ports, right? And those 2 ports are camera port and viewer port. Camera port and viewer port. Viewer will be used by SSM. Camera port is for recording purpose. It's a universal port. You can use the camera port for recording, playback, even viewing. Maybe the third port got disconnected, you can still view through the first port. First port is your multi-purpose port, all-purpose port. If you have 2 camera port, it means failover. Even if the first one fails, all the traffic will start through second one. No issue. Or you can have a different network of camera, different net camera range in different network. That also you can do. Viewer port is used by the SSM, but recording does not happen here. Camera cannot record through viewer port. Viewer port is also used for failover. You have to make sure this port is connected. Only then failover functionality will be detected in the NVR. You can see that later. There's a video on how to configure failover. But today you just need to know how many cables are required. You use SSM VMS, you need 1 and 3. If you use failover, 1 and 3. iSCSI, you will not find it in all the NVR, maybe 1 NVR, 2 NVRs you'll find. You can directly plug the iSCSI, but most likely you will plug it on the switch. If you plug it on the switch, in that case, again, you need a viewer port. Again, let me rephrase this point. Imagine you have iSCSI storage. You have bought an NVR, it supports 80 terabyte, but the customer wants 120 terabyte. So you are expanding with some iSCSI storage. Fine. Now you can directly plug the iSCSI behind the NVR in fourth port. If your NVR does not have fourth port, then the third port will become a multi-purpose port for all other function. iSCSI or viewer or SSM, everything can be done through third port. All right. Okay, let's say you don't want to connect behind the NVR. You can connect to the switch and you can still add the iSCSI storage to the NVR. All right. What iSCSI storage is supported, you can open the manual. There are some models listed. What is the size, maximum size, all that will be listed in the manual. Very rarely used. You can always get help from our team. Next is network upgrade. You can disable it, otherwise you will keep getting information. Okay, new firmware is available. Go ahead and upgrade. Then you might get a call and need to update. You can do it by yourself every 6 months or every 1 year. You can update the Nvr firmware. All right. So just to revise this point, critical point. That's why I want to revise again. If you are using more than one NVR, there is a chance you have a VMS, SSM VMS. And if you are using SSM VMS or any viewing client, make sure you connect two ports so the load is balanced. The first port for recording, the viewing port for the client PC. Okay. You can change the range. It should not, it need not be 3. You can make it 1.205 like that. It's fine. You can change the range by clicking on setup. Okay. Then network upgrade you can disable. Okay, when we are doing the setup network port, there are three text box you have to fill up. One is IP address, subnet mask, gateway. Everything else, do not edit, do not change. Just leave it as default. This is 168.126. Just leave it as it is. It's not going to have any impact. So for us, as a configuration, you don't have to edit any of this. Only these three you have to fix. Okay, next is time for the NVR. You change the time according to your local time. So all the recording will happen correctly on that time, right? By default, it is some GMT. You make it GMT +3, +4, depending on your region. And that's it. Once you finish, it will go to this page. It will say no camera registered. Do you want to register? We will do that after the break, how to register the camera. Now, after doing the initialization, what did we achieve? We prepared the NVR with a language. We gave a default username and password, username admin. We gave the password for the NVR. We set up the uh, IP address for the NVR. It was default 1.200. We gave an IP address. And then we also fix the date and time. So the NVR is now ready. You can then log into the web page of the NVR and do the remaining setup. All right. You can go to the web page of the NVR and do the remaining setup, adding camera, changing settings, and so on. But the initial thing, you have to plug a monitor and do the initial setup. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead, take a break, and we will catch up in another 10 to 12 minutes. Yes. This RLP you check with Ganesh only. It is not even released. Everybody is asking about it. I have no idea. XRL 20. Support Nvr also can also add it to system. Yeah, it will support both. Both. Yeah, so I think they're planning to some work on the prices. All right, let's begin. So as mentioned, each of you will get an email from WebEx called Invitation for Remote Lab. And once you get the email, you click on the link and it will connect you to the PC, remote PC. Each of you will be assigned to a remote PC. When you click on that remote joining lab link, it, and then I will be sending you this online workbook, hands-on NVR workbook. You can fill up the details and submit it. In the workbook, you will find your information. You have to enter your PC number, whichever PC you're connected side by side. You practice each question and then submit. For example, I am PC1, so I can work on these two cameras and my NVR is 205. And I will learn how to register camera, how to do recording settings and so on. We will cover this as we go on. Okay. So you will be receiving quite a few emails, so please feel free to open it. It's not one email is not the same as the other one. One for maybe some of you require recording. I will send one email for recording of the session. One for the PowerPoint. For the some will be sent by WebEx to do the test. Some will be sent by WebEx to do the lab and so on. So just watch out for all the emails. Okay, so let's begin. I will clarify at the end of the session the full procedure after the class what you should do. Again, I will go through the step by step. All right. All right. So now, once you have initialized all the NVRs, we have a tool to do the discovery. We have a tool to discover all the NVRs, whatever you have given an IP address. And that tool is called Wisenet Device Manager. It looks like this, Wisenet Device Manager. You have to download this tool from our website, by the way. You go to hanwha-security.com and put your mouse over online tool. Under online tool, you can find scrolling down device manager. It is used to do bulk settings. Maybe you want to change the password for all the NVR. You can use this to change all the NVR password. All right. So this is device manager. It is very good for using with camera because you can do all the settings, camera settings. For NVR basic functions, you can do discovery and um, changing the bulk password, taking configuration backup of the NVR and so on. Once you open the toolbox, you can start fresh, click on search. All the devices will be searched, cameras, and your camera you can sort by IP address 32, 33, 34. So each of you will have two cameras, right? Minus 32, 33. How do I know that? From the workbook. PC1, 32, 33. All right. On the left side, you have filter for recorder. Here also you can filter by IP address. My NVR IP is 205. 205. So I'm going to open 205 and practice. Okay, double click. It will take you to the NVR web page. You can use the password which you did using initialization. All the NVR will have same password in our training room. Use admin@12. Do not change it. Use the same password for all the camera, all the NVR, use the same password. Okay, so use it to log in. Done. Once you log in, you have reached the web page of the NVR. Go to settings, go to setup, and you can begin adding the cameras for the NVR. How to add the camera? On the left side, you will find under device camera registration. Go to camera registration. I will delete all the current existing cameras and start fresh. Delete all. Okay. Delete. Then click on auto to search. Sort by IP address, first and second. Okay. Scroll down. You have to enter the password of the camera. Camera, I'm using the same password, capital ADMIN@12. After this, click on connection test. Make sure your NVR can connect to the camera. Okay, done. After that, click OK. It is not yet completed. You still have to click one more button at the bottom. OK, to save. You can call it save button. OK, click on this. Only after this, the camera will get added. Okay, connected, added. Now, if you want to figure out what camera you added, click on preview. You'll get an idea which camera you added. Okay. If you want to add manual, maybe you cannot discover the camera, you can add manually. You can use on-web camera, you can add that, or you can add with the IP address. Okay, you have to choose your Wisenet camera and enter the IP address, username, password. Next, camera setup. We will see that. Before that, channel setup. Channel setup is where you edit the camera name. You can each camera by default they will take channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, 4. They don't have any name. For example, by default all cameras have name 20, 21, 22. You have to give a name to each camera. So you can enter the name here, camera 1, entrance A, entrance B, entrance C, and so on. Give the names. Okay. Let the video be on. It should not be anything else. If you switch it off, then video will not be recording. Audio, if you want audio recording, if you want to do listening to audio, you can turn it on from the camera. You have to connect microphone and all that, but otherwise you can keep it off. Very rarely used. Okay, after this, camera setup is done. Okay, done. Give the camera name, click OK. Camera is added. Now we have to figure out where it is recording. Okay, and what is being recorded. Go to record, record setup camera. Currently it is recording H.264. Who told the NVR to record H.264? I didn't. So by default, the NVR does not know. It will only record what is easy to find, the default H.264. It will record. But you know H.265 is better. You can get better storage and all that. So for each camera, you can change one by one, or you just select here, change to H.265. Now it will automatically select H.265 from the cameras and record. Okay, after that, make sure to save. Once you did this, if you notice, it is saying 2 mega 15 frame, but maybe I want to record only 10 frames. So who decided this 15? So this is done on the camera side. Someone has configured the camera to be 15 frame. You can edit that from the NVR or from the camera or through the device manager. Many ways to do it. But if you today we are talking about NVR, so we will see how to do it through the NVR. You remember the device registration where you added the camera? Below that there is something called camera setup. Here you can find H.265 is 15 frame. You can make it 10. It will get saved onto the camera once you do. Okay. Then go back and check next camera. This is also 15. I will change it to 10. Time consuming, right? This method, that's why we don't use this. We have a training called camera configuration. I can just show you how it is done in device manager. There is a YouTube video, you can also check that. Let's say I have these two cameras, 32, 33. Click on them, select credential, give the password, apply, login. You logged into the camera. After that, click on the plus button, video profile. From here, this is the camera. Click on H.265, double click, currently 10 frames. When you double click, it will tell you what is the current setting. See, I have one more camera, 33. Choose the profile. Current is blank. Double click. It will tell me the current setting. If I want to change the frame rate only, just make it 12 frames. Apply. It will get saved. Double click. You will find updated. If you have 100 cameras, all 100 cameras will get saved. It should be same model. All right, it should be same model. For example, let's see if I have same model cameras. So no, I have two cameras of the same model. So I don't have to do one by one. I can select these two, video profile, go to H265, check any one camera, 25 frame. So I'm going to make it 5 frames. Apply. Both the camera will get saved. So double click, 5 frame. Double click, 5 frame. So it's very easy to do this way. So learn about this also when you get time. You can attend the configuration training or you can just check a video online. Okay, so this is what we are doing here manually one by one. You can do it through the NVR. Okay, so rephrase what all we did. We logged into the NVR webpage. We went to setup. We went to device. We added the camera. When you add the camera, you have to uh, do connection test and then click OK to save. After that, you go to channel setup. You give camera names. Camera names. Okay. After this, you go to record, camera, check what profile you're recording. Okay, so now it is recording this profile. All right, done. Camera done, naming done, recordings done. Now, what about the hard disk? Check the hard disk. Currently, I have inserted only one hard disk here. Every time you insert any new hard disk, only that you select and format. Okay, you have to format that hard disk for the first time. Very important. Otherwise, you will see number 157. Sometimes temperature status is abnormal because the hard disk you can insert in computer, you can insert in a MacBook, you can insert in a Linux operating. So it doesn't know. You have to format according to your system, right? So you format that NVR hard disk to NVR. So you have to format once for sure. If you have RAID, uh, let me just take another model which has RAID. Maybe this one. Okay. Here also I have RAID, but if I click on RAID and I click on use, it will give me a warning sign. I cannot use because insufficient hard disk, only one. With one hard disk, you cannot create RAID. So let's say, let me just check another NVR, record, option, it's okay, device, storage, RAID, use. If you have more hard disks, then you can use RAID 5, RAID 6 and click OK and that's it. It will get fixed on the NVR. So doing a RAID setup is not complicated. It's very easy only. Okay. Then in the RAID part, there is one more point. If you are doing RAID setup, just watch this carefully. HDD map. NVR numbering, hard disk numbering depends on the NVR type. You have one more here. This is PRN. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's numbered like this. We have another NVR, which horizontal mounted hard disk. It is top down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 like this. Okay. Every NVR, they have two arrays. When I click on use, you will find here there are array 1, array 2. Every NVR which has RAID, you have, okay, I cannot use, but you will see here array 1, array 2, right? Depends. If your NVR is having 16 hard disk, array 1 will be up to 8. Array 2 will be half of that. If you have 12 hard disk, array 1 will be 6, array 2 will be another 6. Always half. Okay, done. Now, if you go back to the toolbox, when you created a RAID, it says only array 1 is required. Okay, and 5 hard disk required. So you're using only one array with 5 hard disk. That's it. So you need to put number 1 to 5, not 1, 5, 7, 10 like that. You have to put 1 to 5. If ever Let's say I am trying to increase this. Oh, sorry, this is only one. Let's say I need a lot of storage. If I need two arrays, okay, 6. Okay, if okay, I'm not able to get it here, but if you need two arrays, then you need minimum 5 or 6 hard disks depending on the NVR. So if you have 8 hard disk or let's say 10 hard disk, let's take 10 hard disk. You have to insert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, this is how you insert. If you want to create two arrays, if you want to create RAID for two arrays, both the arrays, each array should have minimum 5 hard disk or 6 hard disk depending on the model. The old model is RAID 5 hard disk, the new model RAID 6 hard disk. Okay, the new old one has 12 slots, new one has 16 slots. All right, so you can keep just in mind you need some minimum number. All right, now so your pre-sales or when you do the calculation, they might have quoted 10 hard disks and you need two arrays. So what generally people do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But according to the system, array 2 starts from 7, 7, 8, 9, 10. It has only 4 hard disk and 11 is empty. So it will say I cannot create RAID. So you have to take the sixth one and move to the 11th. Okay, I'm going to just explain once more. If you have 10 hard disk and you need two RAID two arrays according to the calculation, you should insert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then array 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this guy will be empty, not required. Here, oops, sorry, let me erase that. Do not put on 6. If you put in 6, then 11 will not get. So one array will have 6, other will have 4. So it will not work. It's minimum 5. All right. So this kind of errors can happen if you're not aware about this. So it comes by experience also. So when you are working with our product quite often. Okay. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to cover another part which there was a question raised. How to display the and cameras after you add it. I want to see the cameras on the browser. The old NVR works better in Internet Explorer. The new NVRs, this is the new model, they work better on Chrome. You can live view the cameras. uh, okay, you can live view here. Okay, then behind the NVR there is a monitor, right? HDMI monitor. Even from the HDMI monitor you can get the live video. Okay, then you have a VGA monitor. Even from that you can get the live video. All right, how to configure that? Here there is a setup called monitor. You can choose the monitor 1 and monitor 2. What should be the function? A is the primary monitor. The second one is if you clone, it will copy whatever you are seeing in the primary monitor. Expand. A is the primary monitor which you are working on, HDMI monitor, the first port. The second HDMI port or the second VGA port, you have to choose either clone or expand. If you use expand, you have to also select what camera should be displayed in the second monitor. Maximum 32 in the second monitor, and you have to choose which all cameras should be displayed. However, we cannot see it here because I don't have a VGA cable connected to that monitor. I am on the web page of the camera, right? So this is the output behind the NVR, right? So If ever you physically connect a monitor behind the NVR, two monitors, the second monitor is a slave monitor. It will only be controlled from the first one. You have to choose either clone or expand, and you have to select which camera to see. And once you connect a VGA cable, whatever channels you have selected, it will show in 6 by 5 or 5 by 5 layout or 4 by 4 layout. Okay. The primary monitor, if you connect a 4K monitor, it will show 4K. The second monitor maximum is Full HD. The primary monitor we support 4K monitor, no issue. Second monitor maximum Full HD. All right. Um, yes, okay. All right. Okay, let it download. I wanted to explain one more point. I will explain it as we speak. Okay. That's about the monitor. The primary monitor is where you can move your mouse and everything. The second monitor is fixed. You have to just select and fix it, connect another HDMI or VGA, but the mouse will not go there. It will only go to the first one. Okay. All right. So those are the key points when it comes to NVR. Then there are many other sub points which we will see. Okay. How to register the camera. You know how to register now. You know how to change the resolution. You also know how to edit the camera name under channel setup. You know how to edit the recording profile for recording from record camera from H.264 to H.265. You know how to do the RAID function. You need to have certain number of hard disk, and once you apply the RAID, it will restart. So you don't have to do it. Just learn how to do the RAID. Now we will see how to do motion recording and other things. Okay. All right. Okay. So these are the modes available when you are viewing the directly from the NVR. You can see 4 by 4 to 25 mode, 36 mode, and if you have 64 camera NVR, you can get 64 mode. And okay, so there is one more point. Some NVRs, okay, the older models, some of them, if you use two monitors, not just one, if you use the second monitor, if you use a second monitor, the first monitor will not have 64 split. If you don't use the second monitor, if you don't use VGA, the first monitor can support 64. But the moment you use the second monitor, the first monitor will change to 36 split. From 64, it will go to 36. All right, so this one, it cannot generalize for all the NVRs. Some NVRs are different, some NVRs can do different. So depending on your model, you have to get this data. Either you can send as an email, we can clarify that, but it will be inserted in the data sheet and also in the manual. So let's have a look at this one, data sheet. Okay, so you can here local monitor, you can have 16. So it has dual display, HDMI 4K output. The VGA is full HD. In this particular monitor, you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 by 2 by 2, 3 by 3, and 4 by 4. So it supports only 4 by 4. So that's something you have to keep in mind when it is display. It's okay. All right. So let feel free to get in touch when you have two monitors and you have 64 cameras and you have to display, if ever you have to display 64, keep a note, it is not possible. You have to use a VMS, SSM PC, and then you can do it. It's okay. But directly behind the NVR, it is not that designed to do each port 64, 128 cameras, 2 megapixel. No, it cannot do that. There is a benchmark, only what it can do. So the moment you use two monitors, the first one will go to 36 more layout, the second one will go to 32 layout. So you have to work on that, work accordingly. All right. So back to NVR registration, camera registration. We have done that. We added the camera, we did the storage, we checked the monitor. Now let's see how to do motion recording, motion-based recording. Whenever you have motion-based recording, first you have to go and enable on the camera. I have my camera, which is IP address 32. I have to enable motion recording on the camera first. I have to enable motion on the camera before adding to the NVR. So go to the camera webpage, go to settings, then go to analytics, motion detection. Enable motion detection and then select the entire zone. If you don't want some area, you can minimize. So you can adjust the zone. Otherwise, just choose the whole thing. Then click on OK, apply. Tamper detection means if someone is blocking the camera, blocking the view of the camera, you can get. Keep some duration because maybe sometimes someone is in front of the camera for 1 second. It should not detect tamper. So keep it 10 seconds. So if someone is actually blocking, covering the camera or putting some cloth over the camera, then it will raise an alarm after 10 seconds. So you first enable it on the camera. After that, go to where is it? Record. Check the schedule. Currently, what are you recording? Each camera you can adjust. Camera 1 recording continuous. Camera 2 is recording only event if there is any motion. Camera 3 same. Camera 6 same. Camera 9 same. So you can adjust it. Let's say I can do event based recording in the morning or night, and then working hours I will do continuous, or I can do both. continuous as well as event. So during event, you can record at a higher frame. Without event, you can record at a lower frame. So that can be done. So this is both event and continuous. So otherwise, you can choose for each channel, you select done. Okay, make sure it is enabled. If you enable continuous recording, then event based, there's nothing like that. It will record full time. Next, uh, record NVR. In the NVR, this is the recording setup. Currently, standard recording. Standard recording means continuous recording. You make full. Usually, event recording is off. You have to turn it on. All right, because in the schedule, we put event, right? Motion recording. You put event. So when there is an event, what profile to record? Should I record full frame or iframe? So that you have to select here. It is usually off. You have to turn it on, make it full. I want to record during event. Without event, I don't care. I don't want to record. Done. So that's it. So before event, 5 second, after event, this pre-alarm, post-alarm recording. This you can enable. This is one. Next, under event, again, there is one more thing you have to do. Camera event. This is also off. Usually by default, it is off. The NVR is switched off from receiving any events from camera. You have to turn it on, turn on motion detection. So it is not, NVR is not doing the job, but camera is doing, but NVR is not rejecting it. If you switch it off, it will reject. So now you can tell the NVR start receiving the camera events from the NVR. Okay, motion event. Anything else falls under camera event. We have motion, tamper, defocus, face detection, line crossing, virtual area, so many analytics we have. Sound analytics. So other all analytics will fall under camera event. Motion is separate. If you want motion event to receive, first turn it on the camera, then turn it on. Make sure the recording is enabled for event recording. Then make sure the event recording is activated, what to record. Then under the event, make sure the camera software event can be received from the camera to the NVR. It should be turned on. Only after this, your motion recording has been successfully completed. How to check? How to check if my motion is working or not? Go to System, Event Log. You will get an event here, motion detected, camera 1. That means successful. You have completed your motion recording. Okay. All right. This is a tab where you can also do other things. You can save settings. You can export your settings. You can find the NVR information. You can update your software, firmware of the NVR, unzip and upload. If you have too many NVR, you can give NVR1, NVR2. You can give some nicknames. Then system log, you know who's trying to access the camera, which camera failed. You can even filter, who logged in, and uh, and then search. So you get full details. You can create usernames and passwords. You can create groups which a person should see which camera. For example, he can only play back camera 2. He doesn't have PTZ control. He doesn't have web page control. He cannot shut down. So all that you can control through this. Then other things such as behind the NVR, there is a relay contact. Okay, so if you notice in the okay, behind the NVR, we are supplying with terminal block. This is Cat5, I mean, this is the RJ45. Some of them has fiber port, HDMI, VGA. There is a terminal block here, relay contacts. If any camera goes offline, you can trigger a relay contact to some BMS system. Example, event, sensor, we call it sensor, means relay. If uh, video loss, if any camera lost video, If any camera lost video, you can trigger relay 1. It has 4 relays. You can trigger relay 1. It will go to some third-party system. Okay. Then camera also has relay contact, right? If you want to trigger some PTZ, if from the camera, if a relay contact is activated, maybe a door contact connected to the camera, then you can also trigger another output, or you can trigger a PTZ preset. So that can be done here. Okay. Then when you are configuring, your NVR will keep on beeping because every time you do hard disk change, camera going offline, online, and all that, your NVR will keep on start beeping like anything because it is trying to alert you something went wrong. It will also show in the software that it will also show in the log, that's okay. But there is a physical beep. All right, so that comes under here, HDD alarm. Every time anything goes wrong, it will keep on beeping. By default, it is on. Okay, so you should know how to stop the alarm. All right, how to stop the alarm? You go to the NVR web page. Let's take the new model first, and 26.1.222. All right, at the bottom there is a button here called, they need to fix that. It is called reset alarm. When you click on this, stop alarm output. When you click on this, that beep sound will stop. What about this guy? The old NVR. The old NVR, it's not well suited for Chrome. It works better. The new NVRs is well suited for Chrome. So for the old one, you have to open Internet Explorer, go to 192.168.205, and you go here. In the old one, the old NVRs will now look good. You can even play back the video from the web page. You can even export the video from the web page. Example, I need to change the resolution. It's okay. We'll do that later. Let me fix that. Okay, so this is the old model. In the old model, I can see a lot of options. All these I can do. You can click on search, you can play back and all that. There is a button here called stop alarm. So if the beep is going on, you can stop the beep here. All right, so you're acknowledging basically, I changed the hard disk, yes, stop. I formatted the hard disk, yes, it is beeping, stop. You can do that. If you want to do an export, you can click on manual backup. You can export the video, recorded video. You can export in which you can choose which channel you want to record and choose the date. You can export with the password. You can export in proprietary format or AVI format. You can export to a USB or a local drive. So this you can do. However, when I use Chrome, for the old ones, that extra buttons were not there. Search and other buttons were not there. But the new model NVR, it is of course Chrome based, so it works just fine. You have search, you have AI search. AI search is where you search by, for some cameras with AI camera, you can search by shirt color, pant color, and so on. But you need to have AI camera for that. Otherwise, you cannot use this. All right. So here under live, the reset button is here. Search button, you can play back. Also, you can export video from the web page. All right. So that's a basic overview. If you have a Internet Explorer, there is a plugin for Chrome. If you still want to use, there is a plugin, Internet Explorer plugin. In that, if you use it, you can get the same look and feel as this one. Same look and feel as Internet Explorer. So you can do that. I have a YouTube video uploaded how to get the Internet Explorer interface in Chrome for the old NVRs. All right, feel free to get access to that video. It's on the YouTube channel. All right, so now let's go through some questions and we can close for today. All right. How to check the NVR log? Go to system, then find the log. You know how to expand the monitor, how to receive the motion event, how to enable recording, motion recording, that we know. Firmware update, how to update the NVR firmware. First, you have to go to the web page, enter the model number of the NVR, and then you have to click on, for example, when you are on the NVR, go to firmware, download the firmware, unzip it. It's a zip file, unzip. After that, go to the NVR web page, setup, and then you can upload, right? If you can go to system, you can upload the firmware file here. Okay, date and time. In case you forgot to fix the date and time properly, you can do it here as well. You can readjust the time zone, time sync. Your NVR can give time to the camera. So it is activated, so no need to change. Your NVR will give time to all the cameras. If you want the NVR to take time from some other master clock, you can use it also. You can give the IP address of master clock system. Okay, so it will take the time from a GPS clock. All right, so that's one. And how to download the firmware, how to export the video. Okay, all right. Okay, so these are the three questions, and then we can close. Live stream. Okay, if ever you are using SSM, if you are using SSM VMS, let's go back to the old resolution. If you are using an SSM VMS, the SSM VMS will ask the NVR for video, live video, right? Because NVR will send to the VMS. Okay. If you connect the monitor directly behind the NVR, it is called local monitoring. You directly connect behind the HDMI monitor, it's called local monitoring. But if you are connecting the NVR to the switch and SSM VMS is on the switch, okay, so typical SSM. Okay, for example, let's say you have a site like this. You have NVRs and you are using SSM, right? In that case, NVR and SSM, there's no direct connection. It is going to the switch. Okay, so whenever you are connecting the VMS with the NVRs, you have to uh, tell the NVR to send a specific resolution to SSM. So there is a setting called live streaming. By default, the NVR will send a low resolution to SSM. It can be SSM, it can be anything on the network. Maybe some third-party VMS you're using, or maybe you're monitoring remotely over some other VMS. Whatever be the case, the NVR will send to the network to any VMS low resolution. You have to fix that also. It's called live streaming. Make it H.264. When you apply this and when you view the cameras from SSM or VMS, it will be full resolution. So because you have told the NVR, don't send low resolution, send high resolution over the network to a VMS. Why it is available? It's actually good because some customers, they have bandwidth issue. NVR is a remote location, SSM is on a remote location. They have only 1 Mbps. In that time, they will send a very low resolution from the camera. They will send 1.1 megapixel or 2 megapixel. So we can customize. So by default, the NVR does not know where the NVR is, where VMS is. So you have to tell the NVR, it's in the same place, same switch. So just give me full resolution. So you have to adjust it. Otherwise, if you have bandwidth issue, you can change. All right. So this is called live streaming under network. In the new NVR, you will find it under setup, profile setup, remote. Okay. Live. That's auto. Always keep it as auto. Record also, it's H.265. Remote, what to send. By default, it is using low resolution. You change it. Okay. Coming to live, this is a common mistake. Never change this from auto. Never. Always ends up in having issue on the site. Okay. Same thing here. There is something called as device live setup. Always keep it as auto. When you go to camera setup, there is a profile called live for NVR. It has nothing to do with your full resolution monitoring. Maybe you want to see one camera like this, full resolution. This this is not this is nothing to do with that live setup. Okay, so where the NVR knows when you're seeing a full resolution, it will give you full resolution. When you're seeing in a multiplexed view, for example, what is that layout? Yeah, when you see in multiplexed view, automatically it will switch to a second stream or a slightly lower stream because no need to send full resolution. So when you're directly connecting the monitor behind the NVR, you're seeing 64 camera. It cannot show all 64 2 megapixel. It has to reduce it when it is showing. So the NVR 100%, 120%, it needs a profile called live for NVR, which should be 640 by 360 or 800 by 600. Okay, it will use it when you're showing 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 5 by 5. I have seen many customers, they change it to 2 mega. It will end up an issue because it will say cannot display. So always keep it as maximum 800 by 600. That's it. If you're seeing full resolution, automatically it will go to full mega. But when you're seeing 4 by 4, 5 by 5, NVR is looking for a lower resolution. You can make it 800 by 600, 25 frames, or 640 by 360, 25 frames. This is okay. And do not change this. This live has nothing to do with your actual one by one camera live view or the resolution of that. When you're using multiplex view, it will look for this profile. It is dedicated for NVR, created by the NVR on the camera. Okay, so if you avoid changing it, you can avoid having concern on the project. All right, then how to reset the NVR? Behind the NVR, there is a small pinhole. If you forget the password, you can check the picture. Okay, behind the NVR, there is a small pinhole. Let me pull out one picture. You have to hold the reset button for 5 seconds and connect HDMI monitor. Then it will tell you the admin password is reset and you have to create a new password. Recording will not be deleted, nothing will happen. Only the main password will get reset. Better to keep the NVR in a cabinet and lock it. You see this button? There's no label. It's a small pinhole button. You have to hold it for 5 seconds. You can reset the admin password and then make sure the NVR is secured so people don't simply reset the password. Okay, you when you reset, you plug a HDMI cable. It will ask you change the password for admin. After that, admin password is changed. Recording, everything will remain the same. It will not affect. Other settings will remain the same. All right, so that's about it. Uh, so to close, so I will be sending you an uh, email with the uh, basically with the online workbook. Okay, and you will get this. Uh, I will send recording actually recording of the training from WebEx. In that same email also, oh sorry, this is one Google form link. I will be sending a recording of the training. Then you will receive an email from WebEx, remote lab invitation. So open the email, log in and get access to the remote lab and practice the workbook. Lastly, one more email from WebEx, reminder to take test. It's a quiz. Whatever you practiced, same questions will be there as a quiz. You attempt the quiz and then you will get certified. The next month, we will send you the certificate. So that's about it. If you're interested in how to know, I will be sending you an email at the same point. I will also send a video how to log into the lab. There's a YouTube video. I will link it. You will learn how to log into the lab. In the email, you will have a link to the workbook. And yeah, this email from WebEx, reminder to take test. You can click on it and attempt the exam, just like other courses which you have taken test. If you have any further questions, you can ask me, and the training is completed for today. Thank you so much for your time. If you don't have any questions, please feel free to disconnect at any point.